The mollusks, these are going to be the cephalopods, and there are so many good videos here. Oh my goodness, you are actually going to love these. You're going to want to show these to your family. So in the first one, you have what's called a Dumbo octopus. This is the one that they copied for Finding Nemo. They tend to live fairly deep down in the ocean rather than in tide pools, but I think it was too adorable not to have in that movie. And so you can watch one of these things being just as shy as it can possibly be and pulling its little tentacles up around its weird squidgy head. You've got a vampire squid. These things have little hooks on the inside of their tentacles so they can grab onto their food and their food can't run away. They'll basically pierce it, just like with a fork. We've got octopus that are being clever and opening jars, a couple of those. We've got the mimic octopus. Watch this thing. It impersonates different fish and even a snake because octopus, and I can tell you this from eating some, are delicious, and fish love these things. But it gets really good at changing its appearance and the coloration of its skin so that it looks like something else, something bigger and more dangerous. And they do this in order to survive. It's just really amazing. Octopus are smart too. So this is a coconut octopus that's going to use tools. It's using parts of a coconut shell as a mobile shelter to hide itself, and it'll discard its tools when it's done with them and go get more. But it uses that as a little hunting blind, essentially. You've got octopus mating here, and it's got super sexist and dumb commentary on it, and whatever, you can turn that off if you want, or listen at your own risk. But yeah, you can see the way that they mate, which is, let me tell you, something else. If you don't know anything about octopus mating, this is your big opportunity. You're going to want to tell everybody around the dinner table about this. The cuttlefish cross-dressing, just watch it. This is a really cool evolutionary strategy, and look at what the males and females are trying to do, and look at the ways that other ones that are maybe not big and dominant are able to get in there and still have babies without having to fight the big guy. This one with an octopus, it actually can memorize symbols, and it can tell different symbols apart. And this is a video that takes you through that experiment where they did that. And then the last one is some little baby squid larvae hatching. And once they've hatched, you can see the little chromatophores on the surface changing shape and changing color. And whenever this little baby squid get frustrated, they have like a little tantrum, like when a baby would cry. You'll just see them go all dark and all colorful. Their emotions are right there on their skin, and they are just they're so cool. They're really amazing creatures. So let's look at these. Boom, here we go. So the way that cephalopods are able to control the color of their skin is with these little pouches right here. And so inside these little pouches, they have dyes, basically. And they can squeeze these pouches shut. They have little muscles around them that make them really tight and compact, in which case it just mostly looks white. And these little dots kind of blend into the background. Or they can open up those little things. They can squeeze them right up to the surface. And in that case, you will see the colors coming from each of these things. And they have control, enough control over different colors and different areas that they can mimic things like checkerboards, which is kind of crazy, or mimic textures, or mimic just all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Cephalopod biologists have a lot of fun putting them into fish tanks with different kind of backgrounds and watching them match. There are other cephalopods that actually have bioluminescence. So here's the luminescent pattern on the back of this particular kind of squid. And so squid are going to have 10 arms. They're going to have the normal 8 sort of feeding arms, plus those 2 extra tentacles that are the extensible ones. They're going to reach out and grab the food to bring it back in. And they will flash like this with the bioluminescence, usually around the time of mating as a way to attract mates. This is the underside of an octopus, and you can see the little suction cups there. Have a look at that. That's just a perfect little suction cup. Some squid have these suction cups as well, and they will have little teeth on the inside. So once they stick onto their prey, they'll actually kind of like bite into it with their suction cups. So some people will eat octopus arms raw, like just cut off the octopus, while they're basically still alive and swiggling. And occasionally one of these will actually attach itself to the inside of a person's throat and potentially kill them. Yeah, so yeah, that's your food fighting back. And I don't know, does your food really need to be that fresh? Does it still need to kind of be alive when you're eating it? I don't know. I don't need mine that fresh. Let's look at the eyes of some of these creatures. So not just cephalopods, but all kinds of mollusks in general. So you're going to have a great variety of eyes. And so they will range, you'll have the ones that are shown in panels B and C and D. And these are, yeah, actually very interesting eyes. Rather, in E as well. E is what you find in Squid and Octopus, if I remember correctly. So they have lenses, but look at some of the shapes of these lenses. These are shapes that mathematicians over the years have figured out would actually be really good for collecting light and correcting mistakes in the light. And evolution has given us these things as well. So yeah, if they hadn't actually figured it out with math, we could have cut open enough octopus eyeballs to figure this out the other way. But there are going to be some of them with just simple little pit eyes, just like that. Or with, so this is like an ocelli. This is a little pit eye. We're going to have, pardon me, pigmented layer on the back, just like always, but no lens. The next step up is to make a little sort of camera eye where we're actually going to have a cornea and outer covering and a little lens there to focus the light. And this is the most sophisticated eye, the ones you see in some of those big cephalopod predators, like a squid. And they are just fantastic. They are in some ways superior to our eyes. So let's compare the eyes of something like a human, which is going to be over on the one side, and a mollusk, which is going to be over on the left side. Or sorry, right side. I don't know my right and left. So this is the human vertebrate eye. This is the molluscan eye, so think like squid eye. So they're both going to have a lens. That's great. And the lens is going to be attached to some muscles that can control how much light gets in there. That's also great. You're going to have a pigment layer that extends all the way around the back, which is fine. But with a human eye, all of our nerves that are attached to those light harvesting cells are going to bunch up together on the surface, the inner surface of the eye, and they run down toward the brain right over there. So we have kind of an inside-out eye. This is how our eyeballs are structured, and that's the optic nerve right there, number 3. And so this area right here is actually the blind spot. It's where you don't have a retina, and our imagination will fill in a little bit of something in that area. But there are all kinds of eye tests that you can do that'll that'll show you that you're actually seeing nothing in that small area, and we're just imagining what we see. But look at the molluscan eye. The light harvesting cells are on the surface, and they cover all of the surface, and the nerves are on the back. If you were designing eyes, if you were in the eye designing business, I just feel like this is the way you would design them. So yeah, I don't know how it happened, but we ended up with slightly worse designed eyes than your average mollusk. So, oh well, go figure. And mollusks some of them have lots of these eyes. So this is a little scallop shell, and you can see each of these little baby blue dots here is one of its eyes. And the eye has, look at that little lens right there. Look at that little cornea. And here's the pigment layer that goes around the top. Here's the pigment layer on the back. And those light harvesting cells are going to be on the inside of this. That's what they look like. And they work with a lot of the same sort of genes. So you have your 3 types of opsin, C-type, G-type, and R-type opsin. And they're all opsin proteins. And they all hold on to some molecule like that retinal, yeah. And they're all hooked up to G protein coupled receptors that all end up opening up ion channels and causing a difference in membrane potential that leads to a nerve firing. So same sort of thing that we do, but humans are limited. We just have multiple versions of the C-type opsin, and we use those to perceive different colors, whereas they use different types of opsin to perceive different colors in the molluscan phylum. So look at some of these molluscan eyes. So let's back up a little bit. There you've got all these little blue dots here. Those are eyes. This person is looking at the seashell, at the little scallop, and it is looking back at him at the same time, or her. Here we've got eyes running all along the edge of a giant clam, absolutely surreal. This little thing, pardon, it's actually an octopus that has a shell. It's a thing called an argonaut, and it retains its shell. Most octopus get rid of their shell when they're still embryos, but this guy keeps it for its entire life. They're also called a paper octopus. And there you can see its eyes sticking out at the side. You got your snail eyes up here, looking awesome. You've got, look at that big, beautiful octopus eye. Oh my goodness. With that nice little iris closing in around it to get it just right. Here's a squid eye. Look at that thing. It's sort of W-shaped slit in there. But the optics work out. They work out perfectly. Here are some more eyes. So these are eyes from a thing called a cone snail. Cone snails are poisonous, and they actually kill people. This thing doesn't just poison, though, at random. It poisons, it looks at exactly what it wants to poison, and then it launches these little harpoons filled with the poison, and yeah, it kills things, including you. In Polyplacophora, they actually have eyes as well, but the eyes are inside their armor. So these little stripes that run right here actually have eyes underneath them. So each of those little plates is a little bit see-through, and a little bit of light gets through, and those are effectively the eyes of these creatures. And this one I just like. This is that snail with the two sort of parasitic flatworms in it. The flatworms will be moving around inside there as this thing is living. Somehow the snail is able to do that, and they just inhabit the eye stalks and blow them up. And you can see these worms sort of squidging around in there. So that's not the normal snail's eyes. Those are super crazy parasite eyes, but I think they're nice. So here we got some more. Look at these beautiful eyes. Look at the eye of the chambered nautilus, the eye of the conch shell. Once again, these are pretty typical gastropod eyes. Those are nice little camera eyes. They can see you pretty clearly. And here are those nice complex scallop eyes once again. Beautiful and blue. Look at that little tiny eye nestled in there. The eye from that Dumbo octopus, absolutely gorgeous. This is like the orange one from the video you would have seen. Eyes and eyes. Here's a vampire squid. Here's a regular cuttlefish, I think, or squid. I think that's a cuttlefish. Nudibranch has these two little tiny pipsqueak eyes right there. Here's the little eyes on the front of Naplesia. This is a undersea snail. This guy has two little eyes that are super close together, but all the way back here on his head. These are rhinophores at the front. They're sensing organs. And yeah, so that's all we need to know about the eyes of mollusks, which are quite fantastic and fascinating. And the only other thing, so this would have come up in that video of the octopus mating that you would have seen. There is one tentacle that is not like the other tentacles on an octopus. So octopus, we'd say, has 8 arms, but actually the back 2 it's going to use mostly as legs. So there are some octopus that will actually run along the ground on their back 2 legs, and they'll pull the other 6 arms, the 6 front ones, up inside there. So the second arm on the, let's see, second arm on the right, I believe. Yeah, if you're shaking hands with the octopus, that one is the hectocotylized arm, and that is the one they're actually going to use as a penis if it is a male octopus. And so he's going to try to get that somewhere into the mantle cavity of the female. And the female will quite often rip off this arm so that she can continue to squeeze all the sperm out of it in order to have as many babies as possible. And then the male octopus usually goes off and dies. Octopus lead a very short life. Octopus and squid generally don't live to be any more than 2 years old, and a lot of them only live to be 1 year old. They will mate at the end of that time, and they will do their best to raise their babies, and then they will die. And so every octopus you've seen in the world has basically been an infant. Isn't that weird? All those ones you saw in aquariums? Yeah, little tiny babies. So I think we're getting toward the end. Here's another shot of the trochophore larva. This is a scaphopod's larva. And you can see that they have that nice little band of cilia running right around the middle. Compare this, if you like, to the earthworm, the annelid larva, back at the in the annelid chapter, and you'll see that they're very similar. Their larval structure is very, very similar. So thank you. That's been the end of mollusks. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you got a lot of interesting things to talk about from these. And very good. We will be back next week with something else.